Welcome to the Channeling Spirit Virtual Summit, a platform where we have invited Spirit to share messages, healings, and transmissions with all of us. May this energetic experience help us to expand our awareness and to deepen the relationship we have with our higher self, our spiritual team, and with Source, however we define them. Thank you for being here and for taking part in this amazing journey. Hello and welcome back to the Channeling Spirit Virtual Summit Season 1. So this is a conversation with Robin, and I don't have your name listed in front of me.
Gairaud.
Gairaud, thank you. Robin Gairaud. And as you know, we had some technical issues with the internet connection last time we had this conversation. So he and I agreed to have another conversation as a makeup session. So if you heard the first message, the first session, hopefully we won't be repeating too much of the same things, but if there is some repetition, please be patient with that because we are trying to make up for lost information the last time. So as always, Robin, I'm just going to invite you to just introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there.
So I am Robin, I'm from France, and I'm a clairvoyant professionally for 10 years. And I think I started my journey like 20 years ago with Reiki. Reiki was my opening door. And since this time, I started to have some abilities, extrasensorial abilities, and I developed them since this time very slowly. My way is very slow about this, and for 10 years now, I give seminar to help people to develop their own abilities to channel. So yeah, that's my journey, and I as well as daily job, I do session with people where I connect to the problems they have, and I can receive information about what they are experiencing behind the surface of what they see and they experience.
And so when you connect with, I'm kind of giggling because this is going to lead into a very different conversation than we had last time.
Perfect.
When you connect with the people that you're working with, can you talk a little bit more about who you are connecting with? Because, you know, and again, I say this, take this with a grain of salt for those of you that are listening, because how we describe our spiritual team, as I refer to them, is individual and respective to each one of us. And the way that Robin describes it will be different than the way that I describe it or experience it. And it could be very different from the way you experience it. The one thing I will add before I let Robin speak is that as far as I'm concerned, fundamentally speaking, when I refer to our spiritual team, I am referring to the spiritual energies that are assisting us and guiding us, however it is that you want to define them. My mother, for example, as far as she's concerned, there's her higher self and there's God. That's it. Everything else is just a representation of God. And she has her higher self, which she somehow separates a little bit. I myself have a tremendously detailed grid of the different entities that exist as separate entities, recognizing that they're all connected to God, and that, you know, and again I use the word God very loosely. I prefer the words source or the intelligence of life, but again, how everybody defines these things is entirely up to you, and there's no right or wrong. But again, going back to your work, Robin, I'd be curious, when you get messages from the team of the people that you're working with, who does that tend to come from more often than not?
In my experience, I work mostly with my inner voice. So it's really with my inner voice that I work. Sometimes when I feel I am in a dead end, I will connect my guides and ask them what I can do in this situation. So I would say, like on the session I do, I work mostly with my my inner voice. It's more in my personal life that I will connect spirits and my team, as you call them. And about the team, it's interesting for me to say that we have guides that who are with us from the beginning, and I can see that I have guides who come just for a moment. They will come for 3 months because I have something particular to work on. For example, recognition. And I will have one spirit who will come, and he has this specialty, and he will help me to cross this thing or to understand things. Do I recognize people? Am I recognized by people? And I really see my own life like this. It's like there's a subject which come, and for 1 week or 2 months, all the universe will bring me all the experiences to develop this thing I am on. And at one point, when I will have done some way with it, the life will bring me back an experience just to, and I say into myself, why I am confronted with this experience again, because I moved on, and it just the life bring me this just to realize that my reaction is different, meaning I went over it. So it works mostly like this for me in this kind of work.
I want to add something here again, just to kind of give people a broader understanding of when you say that you refer to your inner voice or that you're connecting with your inner voice. I don't want that to be misunderstood, because a lot of people might believe or assume that when we listen to our inner voice, we're listening to our ego self, to our personality self. And that's not actually what Robin is referring to. When I do spiritual regressions and I work with people, helping them to expand and explore their spiritual understanding via their journey, I know that their spiritual team is communicating with me. I might not recognize them individually or be able to speak about them individually yet, but I do know that when I get messages that sound like they're coming from my inner voice, there's a very subtle distinction in the energy of that message, and I can tell whether it's coming from me or it's coming from my team, my higher self, their team, their higher self. And so when Robin is talking about connecting with his inner voice, and I'm presuming that this is true, he is opening that inner voice to include messages from his team, his higher self, and the people and the client that he's working with, their higher self and their team. And so I just want to be very clear about that we're not talking about listening to our ego mind and our ego self, and I hate the word ego, but this is a term that a lot of people are familiar with. I really hate the term ego. It really is one of my pet peeves. So a lot of times I will talk about how my human experience. So I'll refer to my ego as my human experience, my human mind, my human brain, the thoughts that my human has. But anyway,
Yeah, to continue what you say, it's my spiritual channel. I can call it this way. So yeah, it's not a mental level. That's for sure. And the way I work, and it was really a kind of controlling thing for me, is I connect a particular thing and I disconnect. And for a long time, it's been like this for me. It's more recently, the last few years, I can being called and answer to a message. So from different spirit, it's really me connecting and disconnecting. But when I do this, I use this spiritual channel. But with this spiritual channel, I can as well connect, for example, in what I do, the inner child of the person, or different part, or the father part of the person. I can connect the chakra of the person. I can connect one organ. I can connect one disease, or any part of the person. And if I decide to call the soul or a guide of the person, I will really have the intention to connect this spirit, or one of my the spirit who work with me as well. But it's really it's a kind of a control thing, because I want to make sure what I connect. But through the inner voice, I can connect many things. And what I want to say as well about when you connect things, it's very important to be connected with your own body, because after all these years of experience, I can say just one thing is body can't lie. And that's the conscious we need to have when we channel anything, really, is how does the body answer to it. And it's quite important in what I do, is because you can feel if it's positive energy, you can feel if it's negative energy, and you can feel as well the hierarchy of the information. What I call the hierarchy of the information is when I connect information, so I receive information through my inner voice. So me, I'm more in clear knowing. Now it's how I work. Depending on how I feel in my body, I will know this information is important and another information is less important. And when it's, for me, from my own experience, if the information is really important, I have a wave of energy from the head to the toes. It's really strong. And sometimes it will act on another part of my body. Sometimes I don't feel things as well. But it's really something I wanted to say, that the connection with the body is very important. And the information we have by a clear feeling are really important in channeling whatever you channel. And to continue on this way, because when we channel, we want to know who we channel, and there's a lot of fear about what we connect, or I can have a lot of question about this. I can feel this certain level of fear sometimes. If I connect this spirit, do I really connect this spirit, or another one which is less high in energy, or also? From my experience, I think this fear is much bigger than the reality. I don't say it doesn't exist, but I really think it's much bigger. Because from my experience, positive energy, they are in their own place, but negative energies are as well on their own place. And then they don't have problem with the place they are and the role they play. They play in a way. And from my experience, that's why I was talking about the body. If you connect from for any reason negative energy, you feel it. It happened to me a few times, but each time I could feel it. Like in my body, I was feeling a bit down, and even the messages, they were not high levels messages. And so I was just thinking it's important to this connection with the body, and don't have too much fear, because when you connect, you feel. There's no the idea of the camouflage of spirit is not something I really recover in my experience.
There's something I want to follow up on here, given the direction that you've gone here, and I've got my own ideas and things that I'd like to add to if it comes back to it. But given what you just said, I'm sure people are asking, how did you handle the quote unquote negative energy? I don't tend to like using, again, positive and negative energy, because we all have positive and negative energy within ourselves. We have positive, neutral, and negative energy, not related to good and bad. But a lot of times in language in our society, we refer to positive as good and negative as bad. So again, just from a semantic or logistical point of view, just be careful with your understanding of what Robin is referring to when he talks about positive and negative. But I do want to know if you come across an energy that is not something that you are particularly enjoying or fond of, or that you want to remove the connection, how do you go about doing that?
Okay. Just to add something about what you said, when I say positive and negative, is nothing to do with good or bad, which is really a human way of thinking things. That's why I was saying negative energy are at their place. They have a role to play, like positive energy are at their place and have another role to play. So for me, from my experience, I'm talking about not too strong negative energy. I don't talk about demon and things, but negative energy. I just clearly put my intention to cut from this energy. But in my work, I work with. Sometimes I have to work with entity, which are with people. It could be dead person's soul, but it can be as well negative energy in the body. And I talk with them. I have to talk with them to understand why they are here and what do they need. And sometimes it's like a negotiation in a way. I try to understand their point of view and what they really want. And most of the time they want the person to understand something. And if I am able to give the message and the person has the consciousness and think, it's okay. They don't need to be there anymore. And then I can remove the energy. So it's really, for me, negative is just, I can feel it's negative energy, or I can feel it's positive energy. That's all, in a way. And according, when it comes to spirits, sometimes I have to work with negative energy, but it's pretty rare. And if I have to do it, I do it. But most of the time, I connect to positive energy. And if it happens that I connect a negative energy, I just put a stop to it, like clear intention.
Yeah, exactly. The intention that we set for ourselves in the work that we do is really, really important. I would agree with that 100%. And for me, a lot of the, again, I'm take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I'm still kind of new in this whole world. I'm still exploring and finding my own path and my own journey. but through my experiences and the people that I've worked with, teachers that I've worked with, I've learned things around being very clear about setting the intention, who it is that I want to work with, who it is that I allow into my space, who it is that I allow to interact with me. I set a very clear intention that whoever it is that interacts with me needs to connect and get the approval of my spiritual team, my guides that work with me, that know me, that interact with me, that support me, that are co-creating this experience with me. Any entity that wants to connect with me or through me needs to go through them. They're my filter, if you will. And I agree with you. You know, if whenever it is that an energy decides that it wants to come into my experience and is working with me for whatever the reason, have it be individually or with clients, it's always recognizing that there's an intention behind that interaction, getting to the kind of the story behind it, understanding it, and like you say, negotiating in order to figure out what's the appropriate way to move forward, and to have that be driven by, again, I say my higher self and my team and the team of the individual that I'm working with. So setting filters, I like the word filter, not protections. I don't like the word protection at all.
I agree with you on this point. I think we need a little protection, but not too much. We have to find our own level of protection, because at one point, if you protect yourself all the time, you're just sending the message, I am attacked. That's what's happening. So it's really, as you said, filter intention. When the intention is clear, there's no problem. It's really when you are not centered and things, that's where it can negative energy can come or connect you, but you still have the control. If there's a connection like this, you still can have the intention to cut, and it will work if you are clear with yourself. Yeah.
Just yesterday, I was, what are we on? A couple of days ago, I was in conversation with Spirit through my practice group, because as I've mentioned throughout this series, I have a group of friends that I practice with. And while I was in conversation with Spirit through my friend, they brought up the idea that I've created a shield that is preventing me from experiencing the life that I want to experience because I'm protecting myself too much. And so what they encouraged me to do was to dismantle that shield, disintegrate that shield, get rid of that shield, however it is that, you know, whatever language you want to use, and to create a flexible and adjusting boundary, which I thought was really cool. You know, so it's, and who's determining how strong that boundary needs to exist? Well, I put it to my higher self and my spiritual team, you know, because they're the ones that have full access to my experience. They know exactly what I'm wanting to experience, how I want to experience it, and what I'm willing and what I'm able to experience. And so I'm in the process, literally, of dismantling this shield energetically with my imagination and creating what I refer to as a magical barrier that adjusts according to my needs in that moment, and my desires in that moment. And I can always put up a very strong shield at any time, like you say, with my intention. I can just say, done. You know, I don't want anything, boom. And I'm going to create a hard shield. But I love that idea of creating a barrier, a filter that adjusts and that is adaptable and flexible, which is something that most of us don't even think about. You know, I love that flexibility. You know, a lot of conversations with Spirit, I'm getting chills. I always get reminded of, we always get reminded of the idea of including or something better at the end of whatever it is that we ask for, whatever it is that we're manifesting, or something better, or something greater that is beyond my understanding. And for me, that idea of having a flexible and variable shield, filter, protection, armor, whatever term you want to use, I love that flexibility. I mean, it can be thin and effortless and adjusting and magical. And so I wanted to add that because literally this was just a couple of days ago, and it plays in line with the conversation that Robert and I are having.
Yeah, to continue what you say, according to me, the purpose of channeling is to evaluate. I cannot put it simpler than that. For me, it's like this. And for evolution, you need to live some experiences. And that these experiences were gonna make your belief system move, and that's a part of the shield you're talking about, because we have thousands of different shields, but most of them are our belief system. We think it's like this or like that, and when the belief is stuck, we are stuck at one point. And sometimes life is bringing an experience which is going to be very hurtful for us, very painful, but it needed for us to move. And when we move, that's where the treasure is. And what I really love in channeling for me is understanding this treasure, understanding why I cross this this experience where I didn't see any treasure during the experience. Far from it. But by channeling, I can understand why, and when I can bring back some sense, everything has a different sense for me, and I can really, keep this treasure with me and continue the way with it. And that's why for me in channeling, it's very important to always have the link in between whatever it's the spirit you connect or your inner voice or any part. What is the link with my life, and what is the link with my incarnated life? You can say that in English, incarnated life. Okay, because I had the experience for me, like for 3 years, I think I was really highly connected there. So I was doing travel, meeting guides and everything, but my life wasn't changing at all. Because what was happening is all the information were stuck on the high level, but they didn't root themselves through me. So I had no effect on the material world in my incarnated life. And it's quite a time, 3 years like this. And the rest of my life is really in reaction with this part of my life. Does it change? Does the information has an influence on my incarnated life, on my real life or not? And at one point, I really had to put a really huge filter, meaning if it doesn't act on my life, I don't want it. I don't want it, and so on. But it was a bracket time in my life that I had to be that straight with myself, and now it's less straight. But it's really the idea that if we choose the incarnation, is to live in an incarnated life, and spirits and channeling can help us to evaluate in this life, to bring back some some meanings, but as well some reassurance. Sorry, they can help us to have more confidence in ourselves. I have a lot of messages from my spirit, which are just on this level. Like, it's okay. Continue on this way, or just okay. And I feel safer, and I can continue my way.
Yeah, one thing that I want to add, and it's a language thing. It's not just about evaluating our life. Robin is also speaking about evolving within our life. And so there's an evolution that Robin is speaking to within his description. And so I just wanted to emphasize that, because he's talking about evaluating, but then he also, if you listen, he'll make a comment about how we evolve. And so I just want to connect the two, that there's a link between evaluation and evolution within what Robin is sharing. I want to kind of change directions a little bit, if I may. In our last conversation, which I know a lot of the listeners were really interested in, was your journey, and we talked about how your journey was really important. You have gone through different methods of the clairs, the different way that you connect with your spiritual self and the spiritual energies, and you've gone through what I would refer to as the puzzle pieces, where you focus on one for a while, and then you kind of start developing your skill in another one, and then the previous one kind of goes dormant. And so you've had this evolution. I look at my life as puzzle pieces. Like, I can tell you, a puzzle piece was these 3 years and these 4 years, and so these puzzle pieces are all separate, but they're all creating a bigger picture. And so that's the way that I metaphorically have interpreted what you've shared about how you play within your own clairs, is that they've kind of manifested individually for you to develop them, and that you're still in that process of integrating them. But before we do that, I love what you shared about the importance of integrating our spiritual development with our human development. That integration is a huge part of what I'm very passionate about. So thank you for highlighting that. I think that's really important.
So my journey started with Reiki. So the first time in my life, I could feel things that I could not rationally explain. It opened the first door for me, the door which opened all the other ones. So we started with the clear feeling, but as soon as I started to give Reiki, I had flashes, so vision, really short vision of animals. I was seeing animals, but when I see short, it's like this. So my mental side was saying, it's your imagination and things. It's not important. But it was so. It was coming again and again. So at one point, I had to think it's important. So I had flashes like this. It continued. And then I had Kundalini awakening, and a few years after, when I say my way is very slow, it's very slow. And during this awakening, the visual, the ability of the vision exploded completely. So I was going to past life very easily. At this point, I was seeing objects in the people's body. I had vision, even open eyes. It was a lot. But because my way was slow, I could integrate this. It was 10 days like this. And after the awakening and the heart, the connection of the heart that I had for 10 days stopped, but all the abilities stayed. So I continue with this vision for a time. It was more and more. I had like short movies all the time. so I really developed this part, and at one point I started to hear things, and from this moment, because I really wanted to experience this, each time I wanted to channel, I was saying I want audio information. And that's an interesting thing you can do as well. It's like if you want to test some other way to receive information, you can just put your intention. I don't say it will work all the time, but sometimes it does, and it's the power of the intention as well. So at this point, I just wanted audio information. So each time I was saying I want audio information, and the vision just went down for me. Meaning I still can have some vision, but it's pretty rare now. And most of the time it's when it's shorter for the spirit or for my inner voice to give me the message they have to give me. We say one picture, sometimes it's 1,000 words, and in these cases they send me a picture. But I don't have the same ability in vision that I had before. So it was like clear hearing for quite a time. And so I was really channeling spirit and experiencing this. But by the same time, and at the same moment it arrived for me, I learned how to feel with a technique called biochambre. I could feel a positive energy and a negative energy. And so each time I was communicating with a spirit, I was asking him to validate what I received by asking the spirit to move from a place to a place. If it's right, move to this place. And I could feel, so I was validated, with what I heard. And that's something which really helped me, because I talked to it in the other video. When you feel, it's something different than hearing. I can validate myself more when I touch than when I hear. But by doing the two things together, I really increase in confidence very quickly. And without this touching validation, I'm sure it would have been much longer. And that's something you can experience, something I wanted to give as well, that there's a way of communicating with spirit, which which is very simple. And doesn't need biochambre, as I said before. It's balancing technique. I mean, you can do it when you're straight or when you are sitting. It's easier when you're straight. Is you are straight and you ask the spirit you are connecting. You say, I'm gonna ask you some question, and you will answer me by yes or no. Yes, you're pushing me this way, and no, you're pushing me this way. And that's something you can use with all spirits. It can work as well with dead people's soul as well. And it's really an interesting tool. Why? Because it comes with the body. And as I said, the body is it's easier to validate something which happened with the body than all the other extra senses. So that's something you can use, and you can use it as well to validate what you can receive by different channels. And it can be something really helpful on your way of channeling, like you validate. Another thing about validation is you can validate as one rule. You can validate one time, two times, but after you have to stop, because if you do it 3 times and more, it just, you sending in the universe, I am adopting, I am adopting, I am adopting. So I think the validation is important, but it doesn't have to take all the space in what you do and in the channeling. So I like this.
I do want to just kind of again emphasize the importance of being having doubt, I think, is natural for us. We want to validate our experience, but it's very easy for us to give that doubt too much importance and then create an innocent resistance to what we're wanting to create and experience. So the validation, like Robin says, is really important. You know, I live in a lot of doubt as I'm learning a lot of these things myself. I'm still doubting my whole experience. Like if you ask me if I'm actually channeling, I'll say no. But I've been told by, again, spirits through my friends that I do trust, and they say, Daniel, you're really doing a good job in your channeling. You know, keep on practicing, you'll get better. You know, but if you ask me, I'll say I'm not channeling. I'm just, you know, so there's, I can create a lot of resistance to what it is that I'm wanting to create if I live too much in that doubt. So there's a balance there. I like the idea of it's okay to doubt a couple times, but if you find yourself continuously doubting that over and over again, that can be a red flag to kind of let you know that, you know, you're innocently creating resistance.
Yeah, last time I said doubt is a friend you have to keep at the right place, and I think it's something like this. And if I see my journey, I made a lot of mistakes at the beginning, and because I allowed myself to do this mistake, I could do the journey in a way. I could have stopped everything. Feeling like I thought I felt some spirit, but I wasn't, because it was not the size of the spirit I was feeling. So I was completely wrong. But I thought I was okay, so I continue and with the experience, it gets thinner, and I made less mistakes and maybe much less mistakes. But it's because I made some mistakes that I did the journey that I did. I have no doubt about this, actually. So doubting is normal, and it's something which keep us from being unrooted or being going into the spiritual power some people goes to, and I know some people like this. At one point, if you have no doubt, you go this way, because there's no border, no barriers as well. So it's an important thing, but as you said, keep it search validation when you really think that it's strange, or when you really have a difficulty to integrate things. So be sincere with yourself, because I can see some person that they just check all the time things, and it doesn't send the right message. It's sometimes we have to have a confirmation. For example, I give my experience. Sometimes I channel something which is completely out of my consciousness. On all the level I know, it's out of my consciousness. And in these cases, I check because I really have to check. It's something which is very difficult to integrate. Because more you go on the way, more you open doors. So when they present themselves, it's much easier to get them. But when you have information which are really out of your consciousness, there are some resistances, and it's normal. It's totally normal. But it's important as well to make the difference in between the doubt we can have and the resistance we have with the message we receive. Because sometimes it's just getting into our structure, and we don't want to evaluate. We don't want to change. We don't want to put the thing in place that we have to do to change a certain part of ourselves. So we are in a resistance, and it's different than doubting about what you receive. Two different energies.
There's something I want to emphasize a little bit. And it's related to something that you said earlier about your journey, and I can relate to that myself because I feel like I'm really slow in my own development. There's no right or wrong. There's no speed that is the right speed or the wrong speed. And I just want to emphasize this because there's a lot of people are maybe wanting to learn how to connect more with themselves or with their spirit team and learning to channel within their own experience. There's no right way or wrong way. What's really important is that you find your way, what's appropriate to you. And I love what Robin was referring to earlier about listening to your body because your body can't lie. When you start to recognize the way that your body communicates with you, the way that your body encourages you or warns you of a direction that doesn't align with yourself, you start to really be able to be guided by the wisdom that exists within yourself. And your body is a beautiful tool that communicates that. But I want to emphasize that, Robin repeatedly talks about how he's really slow and his journey was really slow. And I raise my hand as well. My journey has been really, really slow. Like I say, I've got friends that I practice with that, as far as I'm concerned, they're channeling beautifully, and I'm in the remedial, I'm in the remedial class. But it's really important that you find what's right for you and to recognize that there's no right way, there's no wrong way. Robin will talk about his experience not as a roadmap for you to follow, but just as an example of how his journey has been developed. I'll talk about my experience in the same way. So I just want to emphasize that it's really important that you find what's right for you, that you find the methodology or the approach or the the connection with spirit in whatever way that manifests.
Yep.
So I just want to highlight that, emphasize that.
Yeah. I continue on what you said. It's very important to be aware of your own personal music of channeling in a way, because there's hundreds of ways of channeling. And during my journey, I still discover some other way to channel, and we have to be aware as well that this way is a way of frustration. If I come back at the beginning, I had frustration, and now I still have some frustration. I would like to see the energy and things. That's something I cannot do. So I still have frustration. But from this point, by accepting it's a journey and we will have frustration, we can go into ourselves and recognize what we already have. And I really think that the third eyes abilities are like a child. If you tell the child it's good what you do, wow, you can do this, and that he will really will want to go further and continue the way. If you say that's it's existing, it's not good, and think he won't go on the way. He will not have the power to continue. So first thing first is really to see I can feel this. Okay, it's cool. that's one way to do this. Or sometime I heard one word, it's great. And this way of seeing our ability is like, it's really like, this is my music. And maybe my music will evaluate and maybe it will change. From me, it changed. But it's really, okay, I can already do this, and I can feel some, I can be grateful for this. And that helps a lot in developing this kind of abilities. Because we are most of the time very hard on ourselves about this.
Yeah, I agree. And again, to everybody that's live with us, feel free to interact with us in any way you like. You guys have been very quiet today, which is fine. There's no right or wrong, but just as an invitation again, if you want to interact with us, feel free to join us in this conversation, have it be in chat or on the Instagram. So Robin, for somebody that's starting out, for someone that is interested in going in this direction, what recommendations would you have for them?
So my recommendation will be to start with feeling the spirit with the body. And I told about it last time. One simple things to do is to put an object in front of you and ask the spirit to place itself in the middle of the object. Then with the hand, you go 1 meter, 1.5 meters, and you go very slowly in direction of the object you put. And at one point, you can feel something will change. It can be feeling some heat, some resistance, some density in the air, or you can have a reaction in the body. When you feel it, you go a few centimeters behind, and you reduce the way to the layer you felt. And what we can feel the most is the difference in between when you are not on the layer and when you are on the layer. When you are into the layer, you won't feel much. So it's really this beginning there. And it's really something great and which change things, because it's really, it's not easy to, even if we believe in spirits, in light beings and things, it's not easy for us to believe truly inside. We all have resistances with this. And by touching them, it's really connecting them with the body. And it's one step which is quite important for me, like first step, because it helps all the rest to open, like, okay, I can feel something. And we have to be aware as well that it's subtle energies, which, whatever the channel you receive your information from, it's still etheric channel. So it's subtle energy. It's very different from our physical senses. So even if sometimes it's stronger than other time, it's always subtle. So we really have to be aware of this. And after, as I said, the technique of this is quite good, because you can ask closed question, like question the spirit can answer by yes or no.
So
and
I'm going to let me just interrupt you here, because not everybody's going to be watching the video. So what Robin is referring to is, you can your body has a balance to it, and our balance is a very clear and simple way that we can utilize to get answers, to get the yes or no's. And so what Robin was doing, for those of you that aren't watching the video and are listening to the recording in the audio, for those of you that are in the unlimited access package, there's a leaning forward that your body will do. And typically what I do and what most people do is that moving forward is an indication of yes, and moving backwards an indication of no. And it's just and it can be subtle and it can be very obvious. I mean, I've had messages where I've asked the question, yes or no, is this XYZ or XYZ? And I'm almost falling forward. Like I have to move my foot in order to catch myself because I was moved forward so much. Or vice versa, I need to actually move my foot so I don't actually fall backwards. Or it can be much more subtle than that.
Yeah. To complete what you said, spirits have the ability to act on material on a certain level. That's why we are pushed back or forward, and that's what we use to communicate. What's important is the protocol you put at the beginning, and it has to be very clear. It doesn't have to be what I say, but it has to be very clear. You really connect with the spirit, and you say, I'm gonna ask you some question. If the answer is yes, you push me this way. If the answer is no, you push me backward. Okay, and at this point you can say name of the spirit I connect. Did you understand what I said? And if it's like this, it will push you forward. And if not, you re-explain the thing. So it's really the protocol. And more you work this way, less you have to do the protocol, because it's clear with you and it's clear with the spirit you work for. And these are really great helps that I had on my journey, and quite important. And being aware as well that channeling, it's making space within myself for the information to come. So it's really in the spirit you have to make space. So it's a let go energy. It's really a surrender energy. And even if you are centered, you cannot see anything, you don't feel you receive anything, but you feel good in this, meaning you don't have your mantle, which turn in your head again and again. It's already a huge step. Meaning you can, and even at this point, the third eye is working, even if you don't have information.
There's something that you say that it's really, I think is really, really worth emphasizing. A lot of us, and I'll include myself in that, have ideas and expectations of what we should be experiencing. And when it's not the way that we perceive it, we think that we're not doing something right, or that we're not experiencing whatever it is that we want to experience. But I like what you just said as an invitation that, you know, even if your mind is just quieter, or if there's a shift in your awareness, that subtle shift in awareness already is an indicator that you are in a different place and that you are having a different experience. So I really like that invitation. Kelly has a couple comments here that I just want to read out. You know, thank you, Robin, for the examples of how to practice and experiment as you described. I do not have others to practice with, so this is helpful. And I think that this is really important because, you know, I talk about having my friends that I practice channeling with, and it is really helpful. You know, I met them through a class that I took, and we connected and have been practicing ever since. But I do like I do like the example that you gave, which is something that we can do ourselves at home individually, and it allows us to practice this connection that we have with spirit in a tangible, experiential way. So I love that. I do love that. I agree with Kelly. I love that example that you gave. And then Kelly also adds that some people use the pendulum for the yes or no answers, and that she seems to trust her body leaning forward and backward more often. I agree. I tend to use the pendulum every once in a while, but there's more doubt in my mind that that I'm actually doing the pendulum, or that I'm not influencing the pendulum. Where it's easier for me to recognize that if my body starts falling forward, it's not something that I'm consciously doing. And if I do consciously do it, it's easier for me to recognize when I'm interfering with the message. So I don't know if you want to respond to that or comment to that.
Yeah. Another thing is, as you said, you don't know in which form the information will come. So it's really at the beginning, because it's a video about the first steps. So the beginning is like, it's very human that we want to have the sense of what we receive. We can't help. If we have a vision, an image, we want to know what it means for us. But it's quite important at the beginning to allow us not to understand what's coming. Even if the mental part will try to say, okay, I've seen a horse, why did I see a horse or this? So allowing us to just start to receive information. Because at the beginning we receive information and we don't know what to do with it. And further we go, we can understand more and what is the meaning, and get thinner and thinner and more precise and all these things. At the beginning, we just receive information. It's already great to receive information. But what you can do is sometimes we receive information and we have already the interpretation of it. But it's very subtle, from my experience, very subtle. And so it arrives very quickly and it goes very quickly as well. That's the place where we have to be more confident, or really catch this interpretation string that we catch at this point. And still you can as well validate with this technique to say, is it, I think it means this. Is it true? Or is it right? Because one thing I wanted to add, according to my experience, when we channel, the information is right. All the time. When we are in mental side, we know we are in mental side. So when we channel, we receive information, the information is right. But most of the time we don't know what to do with it. And the other part is the mistake we can do, and it still happens sometimes for me in my job, is the information is right, but I interpret it not on the right way. But still the information is right. You could have, from one information, you could have two ways, and I take one way, but it was the other one. But it's mostly in the interpretation of the information. The information is right. And I can say as well, to clarify things, for me, if you don't visualize voluntarily something, you receive information. And when I say that, imagine what we call imagination is already channeling information and things. So about the doubt, because we were talking about the doubt earlier, you can see things the other way. In fact, if you don't act in purpose to shape a form in your mind, it means that you receive it. It really helped me to understand this, but it took me a lot of years to understand that, because it's okay.
So there's a couple of things that I want to emphasize a couple of things here. First of all, again, I love the invitation and reminder that our imagination is already intuition. Because a lot of times we're told by spirit, and I say we, as who we are. People that play in this space are reminded regularly by spirit that our imagination and our spiritual intuition are playing in the same space. They're actually related. They're connected. Some would say that they're the same thing. So when we imagine something, when we create an imagery, that imagery is, again, open-ended. Some people imagine without pictures, so however you create your imagination, have it be pictures or not pictures, that imagery is already touching your spiritual intelligence. It's already touching your spiritual wisdom and your intuitive gifts. There's something that I want to add, just as a footnote. I love the importance that Robin mentioned a little bit earlier about gratitude. And I just want to emphasize this. Gratitude is it's a door opener. The more we recognize what we already have, the more we are telling the universe that we're ready to receive more of that same thing or similar or better than. So being grateful for what you are already experiencing, for what you already have, it just opens the doors. And I just want to emphasize that.
Yeah, and about the last thing you said, so for 10 years I do seminar, but even before I was doing workshop about third eyes and with Reiki. And I really push people to say what they were feeling or receiving. And I really could tell from this experience that first tour, the new person, they didn't say anything. And by other persons allowing themselves to say what they receive, they could open themselves. First, they could open themselves, but they could see or validate that something they didn't think it was information. And for example, the clear feeling is really something we experience, but most of the time we don't think it's information we channel. And this is mostly because in our society we are not helped or pushed to be aware of this thing, like a way of energy or tickling or hot and cold and all these things. So it really help us to be sincere and say, okay, I received this or I felt this, but I'm not sure. I have this doubt, but I felt this. Like in the gratitude is as well the intention of really be aware of my body, possible vision possible, or what I could hear, even if it's a sound or something, even if it's small, because most of the time we need a high level to validate this. It's so recognize all the small steps are steps that they are, and it will grow within yourself just by seeing within yourself what you receive, and that first you didn't validate as in an information. And if you don't know what to do with this information, at least you add information and you can recognize this part. because you always can choose the side of the frustration, what I don't have and I would like to have, and what I already have, but I'm not satisfied, but I already have this part of things.
So I want to invite you to, if you could connect with your inner voice, your spiritual team, however it is that you want to connect, I would love to give them the platform for them to share something that they want to contribute to this conversation.
Tout d'abord, sorry, it was in French. First, they was talking about emotion. And what I was saying, it's very interesting, is channeling is making yourself empty to be crossed by something. And seeing it this way is very interesting, because what I was saying is when you have emotion, it's a kind of channeling as well, because you are crossed by something, and it's really about letting ourselves being crossed. And when you were talking about shields, or I was talking about resistances, it's talk about all this is being channeling is really allowing ourselves to be crossed by an energy, whatever the form this energy is taking. And it's not something easy. It's not something easy. And that's what I can feel as well when the heart is open. I can be crossed by emotion, or I can be crossed by information that normally will shock me, or will put me in a place I don't want to be. But when it's open, it's cross me. And it's like being a very thin layer which vibrates something which cross us. And seeing it like this, it's a bit different, because it's not I want something, is I allow myself to be crossed by, to be to feel something into myself, whatever it is, or to feel nothing, which is another experience as well. But it's like opening ourselves to be crossed by something which is not definite, which is not precise. You don't know, but you surrender yourself to be crossed by an energy, whatever this energy is.
I like that idea of allowing ourselves to be open and empty for something else to cross through our experience. And I think that it's important to emphasize that it is not about, well, let me rephrase this. My interpretation of that is that this energy is transient. The information is transient. It's not about being an empty vessel for information to fill the vessel and to stay there. There's a movement that I think is important to also recognize. And I like the invitation of utilizing our emotions as an example of this. You know, we tend to get really caught up in our emotional experience where something is passing through us and we kind of grab it and we take it and we focus on it. And then that experience interacts with us in a much more powerful way than if we just allowed that energy to pass through us as a temporary transient energy that is just passing through us. And so I like that association of the connection, the metaphor of utilizing channeling and using our emotional experience as an example of channeling. So I like that. It's really nice. So I know that we're kind of, we're not necessarily at the end yet, but we are kind of getting towards the end.
Okay.
And again, for anybody that's here, feel free to interact with us with questions or comments.
What I wanted to add about what we just said is channeling is creating a space where you have enough safety to surrender yourself. So it's really a kind of balance that we have to find, because if we are unsafe, we cannot channel. I tried many times, so I can tell you it's not possible. We need to have a certain amount of safety, but channeling is a step into the unknown, and it's the energy of the intuitive of the intuition is the unknown. The mental is dealing with what we know, but the intuitive is dealing what we don't know yet. So we have to accept as well that we are making a step into the unknown. And about the safety, it can be an interesting thing. Sorry, to have a place where you can come back during the channeling if it's difficult for you for any reason, if it's about the mental, or if it's create an emotion within yourself you have difficulties to deal with, you can bring back to this space. And what I can give you is what I call body consciousness. It's just putting your attention, your focus on a part of your body which is in contact with something. If I am sitting, it will be my bottom, which is in contact with the chair or the mattress. And when you come back to this place, you're not channeling anymore, but you are in contact with your body, and that it is a safe place. So you can go into the channeling experience from this place, and if you are challenged for any reason, mental, emotional, that's mostly the experience I could have, you can go back to this place. And in the seminar I do, it's a very important place, because when people have this safe place to come back, they can explore whatever they want, because they have a safe place to come back.
And I think that this is a good segue. And again, I know that we talked about this in the last conversation we had, but once again, can you talk to us about your special invitation that you're offering the listeners of this event?
Yeah. So in June, I plan to make a seminar about developing your ability, but really around channeling spirit, to be able to channel with our mouth, like the spirit is speaking through our mouth. And it will be a 2 days online seminar, and it's really the idea to go step by step into channeling, because it's important to go into surrender levels step by step. It's not the same thing to feel something in the hand than to be able to channel through this part of the body, that allowing the spirit to use our mouth to speak. So it will be like a really practical seminar, and step by step going to this place.
Beautiful. And is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Anything that you would like to kind of finish the conversation with?
No, I kind of like the last element. I think it's a closing. I really want to thank you, Daniel, for this opportunity to do it again, because we had technical problem, and I'm feel really grateful to explain something about my experience, and to help people and to open people to these abilities, because for me it's been a life changement, even if it took a long time. My life never been the same since this time, since I felt something, and I felt something bigger was existing in my life. It's really I'm so happy when somebody is opening to these abilities, because it's the kind of abilities which will help you to know you better. And I really think that's the only thing we have to do on earth, is to know ourselves better, meaning our possibilities, but as well our limitation. Because I really understood that our inner power is developing when we understand which are our limits. And it's something I could not think mentally. But when you know you better, you can see all these things, and you can develop your inner power.
I always talk about how it's about the edges of your understanding. As you get to understand something, that edge of understanding extends a little bit more. And so as you get to know yourself and you get to know the edges of your current level of understanding, it just invites you to continue to expand and to develop and to grow in whatever direction you want to go. So thank you, Robin. Really, as always, I enjoy our conversations. I appreciate your willingness to do this again. And for everybody that is listening and watching, thank you guys for being with us again. Hopefully there's some information that was helpful for you. And I will see you guys in August 8th, which is going to be season 2. So I will leave you guys with being spirit, being human, and simply being from love. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for being part of this incredible experience. We hope that this session has inspired a new level of understanding within you, allowing you to expand more easily into the essence of your true self and become an even more powerful alchemist in your own life. We invite you to listen to the session again and again in order to go deeper each time and expand even more, have it be via the replays or the unlimited access package. If you have enjoyed being part of this event, we invite you to tell your friends so that they can join us in the future. We are grateful that you are here, and we thank you for co-creating this experience with us. Until next time, we leave you with being spirit, being human, and simply being from love.